Subscribe to Infidelity Tales Lab. Now, let's begin. The call came at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Unknown number. Lewis almost didn't answer, but something made him swipe. Dad. His heart stopped. Tyler? Where are you? I've been calling for 2 days. Grandpa took my phone. He said you didn't want me anymore. Dad, I'm scared. They locked. The line went dead. Lewis was already grabbing his keys. His son had gone to his in-laws' house Friday afternoon for what Beverly called a weekend visit. When Tyler didn't come home Sunday, Beverly made excuses. Monday, she stopped answering. By Tuesday morning, Lewis had driven to the Larkins estate 3 times. No one answered the gate intercom. But now he had confirmation. Tyler was there, and he was locked up. The Larkin estate sat on 12 acres in a wealthy suburb of West Shore, hidden behind iron gates and manicured hedges. Old money. Beverly's family had built their fortune in real estate development 3 generations back. Her father, Terrence Larkin, now ran a private family counseling practice from the estate's west wing, catering to wealthy families with troubled children. Lewis drove past the main gate and parked on the adjacent street. He'd studied the property layout during his marriage. Sunday brunches, holiday gatherings, countless uncomfortable dinners where Terrence looked at him like something stuck to his shoe. There was a service entrance near the back. The code hadn't changed in 5 years. He was inside in 90 seconds. The main house was dark except for the second floor. Lewis moved through the familiar halls, past the formal dining room where Terrence had once told him he'd never be good enough for Beverly, past the study where Deborah Larkin had suggested Lewis sign a prenup that would have left him with nothing. The guest wing was on the east side. Lewis heard voices as he approached. He's not eating enough. Deborah's voice, sharp with irritation. He'll eat when he accepts reality. Terrence, dismissive. The psychologist said resistance is normal in the first week. Lewis's blood turned to ice. First week? What if Lewis involves the police? He won't. We have Beverly. And even if he tries, we have Dr. Morrison's evaluation. Lewis Denton is an unfit father. Anger issues. Financial instability. The courts will side with us. Lewis pulled out his phone and started recording. When will Beverly sign the custody papers? Thursday. Morrison convinced her that Lewis has been emotionally manipulating Tyler. She believes the boy needs professional intervention. And Lewis will be removed from the picture entirely. Once we have full custody, we'll relocate Tyler to the Vermont property. Lewis will have supervised visitation at best, if we allow it at all. Lewis stopped recording. He knew exactly where Tyler was now. The locked guest room at the end of the hall. The one with the reinforced door and window bars, ostensibly installed for security. He walked straight to the room and tried the handle. Locked. He knocked. Tyler. Dad. His son's voice cracked. Dad, they said. I know, buddy. Stand back from the door. Lewis kicked it once hard. The frame splintered. He kicked again, and the door flew open. Tyler was sitting on the bed, still in the same clothes from Friday. His face was pale, eyes red from crying. He launched himself at Lewis, who caught him and held on tight. You came, Tyler whispered. Grandpa said you gave me away. Never. Not in a million years. Footsteps pounded down the hall. Terrence appeared first, his face purple with rage. Get out of my house. I'm taking my son. Like hell you are. Terrence blocked the hallway, 6'2" and 200 pounds of entitled fury. Behind him, Deborah appeared with her phone. I'm calling the police. Good, Lewis said calmly. Please do. Terrence blinked. You're trespassing. You broke into my home. I'm retrieving my son, who you've been holding against his will. Lewis pulled out his own phone. But let's wait for the police together. I have a few things to share with them. You have no rights here, Terrence snarled. We have legal documentation. No, you don't. Lewis kept his voice level, one hand on Tyler's shoulder. You have a fraudulent psychological evaluation from a doctor who's never met me. You have forged custody papers that Beverly hasn't actually signed. And you have my 9-year-old son, who you've been holding in a locked room for 4 days. Deborah's hand froze over her phone. How did you? I'm smarter than you thought. Lewis met Terrence's eyes. And you're about to find out exactly how smart. 20 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up to the estate. Lewis had called them himself, while Terrence blustered and threatened. He'd also called Harvey Moss, his lawyer and former college roommate, who arrived just as the officers were walking in. Officer Janet Morrison, no relation to the corrupt psychologist, took their statements separately. Lewis showed her the recording on his phone. He showed her the locked room. He showed her the forged documents he'd photographed from Terrence's study 3 months ago, when he'd first suspected something was wrong. "Mr. Denton," she said carefully, "these are serious allegations. I have serious evidence." He pulled out one more document, the one he'd been saving, including this. "Sole legal custody, granted to me in the divorce proceedings. Beverly and I have been separated for 6 months. She has visitation rights. Her parents have none." Terrence's face went white. "The divorce was finalized last week," Lewis continued. "Beverly knows. She signed. Whatever story you've been feeding yourselves about getting custody, it was never going to happen." Officer Morrison looked at Terrence. "Sir, is this true?" "Beverly made a mistake," Deborah said quickly. "She was manipulated. The divorce isn't valid. The state of New York disagrees." Harvey stepped forward with another folder. "I have the certified documents right here. My client has full legal custody. These people have been holding his minor child against his will for 4 days." The officers exchanged glances. "We'll need you all to come to the station." "No." Lewis knelt down to Tyler's level. "My son needs to go home. He needs food, a bath, and his own bed. I'm happy to come to the station tomorrow with my lawyer and provide a full statement. But right now, I'm taking Tyler home." Officer Morrison looked at the boy's pale face, the dark circles under his eyes. She nodded. "We'll need you at the station by 10 a.m. tomorrow. Don't leave town." "Wouldn't dream of it." Lewis led Tyler out to his car. As they reached the door, Terrence shouted from the porch, "You'll regret this. I have connections. Lawyers. Judges. You've made an enemy you can't afford." Lewis stopped, turned, looked Terrence Larkin directly in the eye. "No," he said quietly. "You will. Starting tomorrow." The story had started 18 months earlier, in happier times. Lewis Denton had met Beverly Larkin at a hospital charity gala. He was there representing the construction company where he worked as a structural engineer. She was there because her family had donated the new pediatric wing. He'd fallen hard. She was beautiful, intelligent, passionate about children's causes. They'd married within a year. Tyler was born 10 months later. The cracks started small. Beverly's parents visiting unannounced. Deborah critiquing how Lewis dressed Tyler, what foods he fed him, which pediatrician he'd chosen. Terrence making pointed comments about Lewis's middle-class upbringing, his state school engineering degree, his modest income. "They mean well," Beverly would say. "They just want the best for Tyler." But the best kept expanding. The Larkins insisted Tyler attend an expensive private preschool. They bought him a wardrobe Beverly picked out. Nothing Lewis chose was appropriate. They planned elaborate birthday parties without consulting Lewis, then made him feel like an outsider at his own son's celebrations. The breaking point came when Tyler was 7. Lewis arrived home to find Terrence in his living room with a woman in a business suit. "This is Dr. Francine Morrison," Terrence said. "She's a child psychologist. We've arranged an evaluation for Tyler." "Excuse me." Lewis looked at Beverly, who wouldn't meet his eyes. "Tyler's been having problems at school," Beverly said quietly. "My parents thought. Tyler's fine. His teacher said he's doing great." "His teacher doesn't understand children from prominent families," Deborah interjected. "The pressure, the expectations. Dr. Morrison specializes in helping children adjust to their circumstances." Lewis had thrown them out. The fight with Beverly lasted hours. She'd been defensive, then tearful, then angry. "Why can't you just let them help? They have experience with this." "Experience with what?" "Tyler doesn't need therapy. He needs parents who make decisions together, not grandparents who bulldoze boundaries." That night marked the beginning of the end. Beverly started spending more time at her parents' estate. She'd take Tyler there after school and bring him home late, tired and withdrawn. When Lewis objected, she accused him of being controlling. "You're trying to isolate us from my family. I'm trying to protect our son from people who think they own him." The divorce papers came 6 months later. Beverly filed, citing irreconcilable differences and requesting full custody. Lewis fought back with everything he had. Harvey Moss proved that Beverly had been coached by her parents, that the custody request was really Terrence's idea, that the Larkins were attempting to use Tyler as leverage to control marriage. The judge awarded Lewis full custody. Beverly got visitation and the requirement to attend co-parenting counseling. She'd been devastated. Not because she'd lost custody, Lewis realized, but because she'd disappointed her parents. Now, driving home with Tyler asleep in the back seat, Lewis understood the next phase of Terrence Larkin's plan. If he couldn't control Lewis through Beverly, he'd bypass them both. Lock Tyler up, break him down, make him believe Lewis didn't want him. Get Beverly to sign new custody papers under emotional duress. Present the courts with a new psychological evaluation declaring Lewis unfit. It was calculated, methodical, evil, and Lewis was going to destroy him for it. Tyler ate 3 bowls of mac and cheese and fell asleep on the couch before Lewis could get him upstairs. Lewis carried him to bed, tucked him in, and sat watching his son breathe for a long time. Then he went to his office and started digging. By 3 a.m., he found a first crack in Terrence Larkin's empire. The Larkin Family Solutions practice had been operating for 12 years. According to their website, they specialized in intensive family intervention services for high-net-worth families experiencing behavioral challenges with minor children. Translation: rich people with kids they couldn't control. The testimonials were glowing. The before and after photos showed transformed children. The success rate was listed at 93%. But when Lewis cross-referenced the business license, the insurance filings, and the professional certifications, things got interesting. Dr. Francine Morrison wasn't licensed to practice psychology in New York. Her degree came from a diploma mill in the Caribbean. The treatment facility Terrence ran from his estate had never been inspected by state health services. And the intensive intervention program had no published methodology, no peer review, no professional oversight. It was a scam, an elaborate, expensive scam that preyed on desperate wealthy parents. Lewis dug deeper. He found news articles from 8 years ago. A family in Connecticut had accused the Larkins of kidnapping their daughter. The case was settled out of court. Sealed records. The family moved to California. He found a bankruptcy filing from 6 years ago. A couple in Boston had sued the Larkins for fraud. Also settled. Also sealed. 3 years ago, a father in Philadelphia had accused Terrence of extortion. Charges dropped. Settlement paid. The pattern was clear. The Larkins would convince parents their child needed help. They'd separate the child from the family, usually at their estate. They'd use psychological manipulation to make the child believe their parents didn't love them. Then they'd offer a solution. Sign over custody temporarily, or pay enormous sums for their treatment program, or in some cases, make business decisions that benefited the Larkins. Once they had what they wanted, the child would be cured and returned. Lewis leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. Terrence hadn't just tried to kidnap Tyler. This was his business model, and Lewis had stumbled into it as a mark. The question was, how many other families were out there? How many other children had been locked in that guest room? And more importantly, how many of those families would want revenge as badly as Lewis did? He pulled up the sealed court records. Getting access wouldn't be easy, but Harvey could file motions. Meanwhile, Lewis could work another angle. He opened a new browser window and typed, Larkin Family Solutions complaints. 17 results. Most were scrubbed or deleted, but a few remained on obscure forums and complaint sites. Parents asking if anyone else had experience with the program. Parents worried about their children's treatment. Parents who'd pulled their kids out early. Lewis started sending messages. By sunrise, he had a plan, and Terrence Larkin had no idea what was coming. The police station interview took 3 hours. Lewis sat in a gray room with Harvey beside him and Officer Morrison across the table. He told them everything. The custody order, Tyler's disappearance, the locked room, the recording. He showed them the forged psychological evaluation. Why didn't you report this immediately when Tyler didn't come home? Morrison asked. I did. I filed a report Monday morning. Check your system. She did. Frowned. This report was marked as domestic dispute, No action required. Who took your statement? Officer Richard Chambers. Morrison's frown deepened. Officer Chambers retired from the force 3 months ago. That's impossible. I spoke to him Monday at this precinct. Harvey leaned forward. Someone impersonated a police officer? Or, Lewis said quietly, someone inside the department helped the Larkins bury my report. Morrison's expression hardened. I'll look into this. In the meantime, we're investigating the Larkins for child endangerment and unlawful imprisonment. We'll need Tyler to give a statement when he's ready. He's 9. He's traumatized. I want him evaluated by an independent psychologist first. We'll arrange it. As they left, Harvey pulled Lewis aside. You're thinking bigger than child endangerment charges, aren't you? Much bigger. The sealed settlements. The pattern of behavior. Terrence Larkin has been running a criminal enterprise for over a decade. He's extorted families, kidnapped children, and corrupted law enforcement. I'm going to prove all of it. Harvey whistled low. That's ambitious. Also dangerous. These people have money and connections. So do I now. Lewis showed him his phone. 6 responses to his 4 messages, all from parents who'd had experiences with Larkin Family Solutions. We're meeting tomorrow. Lewis. Harvey's voice was serious. What exactly are you planning? Lewis thought about Tyler's pale face, his scared voice on the phone, the locked room. He thought about Terrence's smug expression and Deborah's cold dismissal. He thought about all the other children who'd been locked in that room. Justice, he said, and revenge. The meeting happened at a diner 40 miles outside the city. Lewis had chosen neutral ground, somewhere the Larkins wouldn't have eyes. 5 people showed up, 4 parents and 1 older teenager who'd been through the program himself. The teenager spoke first. His name was Preston Bird, and he was 17 now. They had me when I was 13, he said. My parents thought I was doing drugs. I wasn't. But the Larkins convinced them I needed intervention. What did they do? Lewis asked. Isolation. No phone, no internet, no contact with friends. They put me in that locked room for 2 weeks. Dr. Morrison would come every day and tell me my parents didn't trust me anymore, that I'd ruined their lives, that if I wanted to go home, I had to admit I had a problem and agree to let Mr. Larkin manage my treatment. Treatment being? Whatever they wanted. My dad owned a tech startup. The Larkins convinced him to make Mr. Larkin a consultant for a huge fee. Once my dad paid, I was suddenly cured and sent home. One of the fathers, Chad Richards, spoke next. They took my daughter for 3 months, told us she needed residential treatment for an eating disorder she didn't have. Cost us $200,000 and our family business. We had to sell our company to a buyer the Larkins recommended, at a significant loss. Turns out the buyer was Terrence's nephew. The stories went on. Extortion, manipulation, children used as leverage to force business deals, extract money, or settle personal scores. The Larkins operated like organized crime, but with the veneer of helping troubled families. Why didn't anyone prosecute? Lewis asked. They did, said Cassandra Delaney, a mother whose son had been in the program 5 years ago. 3 families filed charges, all settled with NDAs. The Larkins paid well to make problems disappear, and they had lawyers who made fighting back expensive and exhausting. What happened to the families who fought? Cassandra's expression darkened. One father lost his business license over a regulatory violation that appeared out of nowhere. Another family's tax returns were audited 3 years running. A mother I knew had CPS called on her anonymously. She nearly lost custody of her other children. Terrence has connections, Preston added. Judges, lawyers, business owners, even cops. Anyone who crossed and paid for it. Lewis absorbed this. The scope was bigger than he'd imagined. Terrence Larkin wasn't just a scammer. He was a predator with a network designed to protect him. So why did you all come today? Lewis asked. Because you're the first person who might actually beat them, Chad said. You got your son back. The police are investigating. You're not backing down. And we want to help, Cassandra added. We want to see them destroyed. Lewis looked at each of them. If we do this, it gets ugly. The Larkins will come after us. They'll use every connection they have. We need evidence they can't bury, leverage they can't buy off, and a strategy they can't see coming. What do you need? Preston asked. Everything. Documents, recordings, testimony. Every family they've touched, every business deal they've forced, every law they've broken. We build a case so airtight that no amount of money can make it disappear. Harvey, who'd been quietly observing, spoke up. I can help with the legal side. File complaints with the state licensing board, professional ethics committees, even the FBI if we find evidence of wire fraud or racketeering. And I can get media involved, Cassandra said. My brother works for a national news network. If we have the evidence, he'll run the story. Lewis felt something shift in the room, a collective determination, a shared hunger for justice. These people had been hurt, humiliated, and silenced. Now, they had a chance to fight back. Then let's take them down, Lewis said. The planning session lasted 4 hours. They divided tasks. Harvey would subpoena the sealed court records and file complaints with state agencies. Cassandra would prepare a media package. Chad would reach out to other victims through online forums. Preston would document his own experience in detail, creating a paper trail the Larkins couldn't deny. Lewis would do what he did best, build a structure that would bring down their empire. The first strike came 3 days later. Harvey filed a formal complaint with the New York State Office of Professional Discipline, detailing Dr. Francine Morrison's fraudulent credentials and unlicensed practice of psychology. He attached statements from Preston and 2 other former patients describing her methods. Simultaneously, he filed a complaint with the Department of Health regarding the unlicensed treatment facility operating on the Larkin estate. Both complaints triggered investigations. State inspectors showed up at the estate 2 days later, demanding access to the West Wing and all patient records. Terrence called Lewis that night, his voice tight with fury. This is harassment. You're using false allegations to attack my business. Actually, Lewis said calmly, I'm using true allegations to expose your criminal enterprise. But please, keep calling me. I'm recording everything. The line went dead. The second strike came from an unexpected source. Officer Morrison from the police department contacted Lewis with news. The internal investigation into Officer Richard Chambers, the retired cop who'd buried Lewis's missing person report, revealed he'd been on the Larkins' payroll as a security consultant. He'd been impersonating an active officer to run interference for Terrence's operation. Chambers was arrested. Under questioning, he gave up 2 other officers and a family court clerk who'd been taking payments from the Larkins. The corruption investigation expanded. Fast. They're scrambling, Harvey reported. Terrence has hired 3 different law firms in the past week. Deborah's trying to liquidate assets. They know the walls are closing in. Good, Lewis said. But I want them to feel it before it ends. The third strike was personal. Lewis had been monitoring Beverly through mutual friends. She'd moved back to her parents' estate after the police interview, but she'd been quiet. No social media posts. No public appearances. She was hiding. Then she called. Lewis. Her voice was small, broken. Can we talk? They met at a coffee shop near Tyler's school. Beverly looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her usual polished appearance gone. I didn't know, she said immediately. About the locked room. About what they were planning. My father told me Tyler was staying for an extended visit. That you'd agreed to it. And you believed him? I wanted to believe him. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I wanted to believe my parents weren't capable of. She stopped. I saw the police report. The recording you made. Lewis, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix what you enabled. I know. She wiped her eyes. I've been seeing a real therapist. Someone who's not on my father's payroll. She's helping me understand how they manipulated me. How they've been controlling me my entire life. Lewis waited. I want to help you destroy them, Beverly said. I'll testify. I'll give you access to their files. Whatever you need. Why now? Because I'm their daughter, and I've spent 32 years trying to earn their approval. But they locked my son in a room and lied to him about his father. They used him like a pawn. Her voice hardened. They chose power over their own grandson. I'm done protecting them. Lewis studied her carefully. Part of him wanted to believe her. Part of him remembered all the times she'd sided with her parents over him. If you're serious, he said, I need you to do something for me. Anything. We're a wire. Beverly met with her father 3 days later, wearing a recording device provided by Officer Morrison. The conversation took place in Terrence's study, the same room where he'd planned Tyler's kidnapping. Lewis listened to the recording with Harvey and Morrison present. The investigators are asking too many questions, Beverly said on the tape. Dad, what if they find something? They won't. Terrence's voice was confident, dismissive. We've been doing this for 12 years. Everything's protected. The NDAs, the sealed settlements, the offshore accounts. Even if they investigate Morrison, she's a contractor. Nothing ties her actions to me directly. What about Lewis? What about him? He's nobody. No connections, no money, no influence. He got lucky with Tyler, but this investigation will fizzle out. It always does. You sound very sure. I'm sure. I paid too many people too much money to worry about one angry ex-son-in-law. Besides, we have leverage. What leverage? You. A pause. If Lewis pushes this, we'll destroy you in the process. Claim you were complicit, that you helped with Tyler's intervention. Your reputation, your social standing gone. Think he'll risk that? Beverly's voice trembled. You'd throw me under the bus? If necessary. No hesitation. You're an adult, Beverly. You made choices. If those choices become inconvenient, well, that's not my problem. The recording ended. Beverly had left the estate immediately after and driven straight to the police station. Lewis felt an unexpected pang of sympathy for her. She'd been raised by monsters, taught to value their approval above everything. Breaking free had cost her everything she'd known. This is good, Harvey said. We have him admitting to the offshore accounts, the NDAs, the pattern of behavior. Combined with the other evidence, this could support a RICO case. Morrison nodded. I'm forwarding this to the district attorney. This goes way beyond child endangerment now. Lewis looked at Beverly, who sat pale and shaking in the corner. Are you okay? No, she said honestly, but I will be. The media story broke on a Thursday morning. Cassandra's brother, a producer for a national news network, ran an expose titled The Family Business, How One Wealthy Couple Built an Empire on Extortion. It featured interviews with Preston, Chad, and 3 other families. It included documents showing the fake credentials, the unlicensed facility, the sealed settlements. And it included the recording of Terrence admitting everything to Beverly. By noon, the story had gone viral. By evening, the FBI had announced an investigation into wire fraud and racketeering. By midnight, Terrence and Deborah Larkin were in custody. Lewis watched the news coverage with Tyler beside him on the couch. Is Grandpa going to jail? Tyler asked quietly. Yes. Good. Tyler leaned against his father. He was mean to you, and he lied to me. He did. Are you still mad at him? Lewis thought about the question. Was he mad? Yes. But more than that, he was satisfied. The plan had worked. The Larkins were exposed. Justice was happening. I'm not mad anymore, Lewis said. I'm just glad you're home. Tyler smiled. The first real smile Lewis had seen in weeks. Me too. The doorbell rang. Lewis opened it to find Beverly standing there, looking nervous. Hi, she said. I know I don't have visitation today, but I brought Tyler's favorite cookies. The ones from that bakery he likes. I thought maybe... She trailed off. You thought maybe you could see your son? She nodded, tears in her eyes. Lewis stepped aside. Come in. Tyler looked up as his mother entered. There was wariness in his expression, but also hope. Mom. Hi, baby. Beverly knelt down. I'm so sorry. For everything. I should have protected you. I should have believed your dad. I made terrible mistakes, and I'm going to spend a long time making them up to you. Tyler looked at Lewis, who nodded. Then Tyler walked over and hugged his mother. Lewis left them in the living room and went to the kitchen. Harvey had texted, DA is filing 47 counts including kidnapping, extortion, fraud, and racketeering. Terrence is looking at 20-plus years. Deborah's lawyer is trying to cut a deal. Lewis texted back, no deals. They both go down. Harvey replied, you got it. The trial took 6 months to prepare. The prosecution built an airtight case with testimony from 19 families, documents from the Larkins offshore accounts, and recordings of Terrence coordinating his operation. Dr. Francine Morrison turned state's witness in exchange for a reduced sentence, providing detailed accounts of the manipulation tactics she'd used. The defense tried everything, arguing that the families had consented to the treatment, that Lewis was a disgruntled ex-son-in-law seeking revenge, that the evidence was circumstantial. None of it worked. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. Guilty on all counts. Terrence Larkin was sentenced to 23 years in federal prison. Deborah received 18 years. Their assets were seized to compensate victims. The estate where they'd operated their criminal enterprise was sold at auction. Preston Bird bought the property and turned it into a legitimate family counseling center, staffed by licensed professionals and overseen by an independent board. Something good should come from all this, he told Lewis. Beverly completed her therapy and slowly rebuilt her relationship with Tyler. She got a job as an event coordinator for a children's hospital, far from her parents' world, close to the causes she actually cared about. She and Lewis would never reconcile as a couple, but they became functional co-parents. Officer Morrison received a commendation for her investigation work and was promoted to detective. She personally arrested the corrupt officers who'd helped the Larkins. Chad Richards got his business back. Lewis helped him find investors to buy out the Larkin nephew's stake. Cassandra Delaney started a support group for families affected by the Larkins operation. And Lewis? Lewis went back to being a structural engineer, a father, and someone who understood that sometimes the best revenge isn't explosive, it's methodical. You identify the weak points. You apply pressure. You watch the structure collapse exactly as you planned. 1 year after Tyler's rescue, Lewis received a letter from Terrence. It was handwritten brief. You destroyed everything I built. I hope you're satisfied. Lewis read it once, then burned it in the fireplace. Tyler, now 10, looked up from his homework. What was that? Nothing important, Lewis said. Just someone who finally learned he wasn't untouchable. Did he say sorry? No. People like him never do. Tyler thought about this. Good thing you stopped him then. Yeah, Lewis said, ruffling his son's hair. Good thing. That night, after Tyler was asleep, Lewis stood in his office looking at the photo on his desk. Him and Tyler at the beach, both grinning at the camera. It had been taken a month ago, during their first real vacation in years. His phone buzzed. Harvey, just heard from the DA. They're using the Larkin case as a model for investigating other unlicensed family intervention programs. You started something big. Lewis smiled. He hadn't set out to change the system. He just wanted his son back. But sometimes, when you fight hard enough for what's right, you end up doing more than you imagined. He typed back, good. Every kid deserves better than what Tyler went through. Harvey, drinks this weekend? Celebrate the appeal being denied. Lewis, you buying? Harvey, always. Lewis put down his phone and walked to Tyler's room. His son was sprawled across the bed, arms flung wide, completely at peace. No locked doors. No lies. No fear. Just home. Lewis pulled the blanket over him, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Sweet dreams, kiddo. You're safe now." And for the first time in a very long time, that was completely true. The Larkins had thought they were untouchable. They'd thought their money, their connections, their careful planning made them invincible. They thought they could take Lewis Denon's son and face no consequences. They'd been wrong. Lewis had promised Terrence he'd regret it, starting the next day. And he had. Every single day for 6 months, as his empire crumbled, his reputation shattered, and his freedom slipped away. That was the thing about revenge when you did it right. It didn't have to be quick. It just had to be certain. Lewis turned off Tyler's light and closed the door softly behind him. Tomorrow, he'd take Tyler to school. They'd grab breakfast at their favorite diner. They'd laugh about something silly. They'd be a normal father and son doing normal things. And Terrence Larkin would be in a cell, finally paying for every child he'd hurt, every family he'd extorted, every life he'd damaged in his arrogant pursuit of power. Justice served. Revenge earned. Game over. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.